We didn't want to leave you with nothing during the break between Christmas and New Year's. So Lewis has been so kind. He's actually done some interviews, and we're going to play one for you today, and there will be one every day this week, so that you do have some content, some really cool things, really amazing people that he's had an opportunity to interview. So we present you with the next one here. Enjoy, and we'll see you back after the holidays.
All righty then. My name is Louis Herms. This is Screw Big Gov, and you have the lovely, yes, the most lovely Mark Atwood here with us. It's awesome, and we're very excited about this. I haven't talked to you in a while, Mark, and I'm actually going to interview you like I'm some type of professional here, which we know is not true.
What? Yeah, I mean, that'd take some work. Yeah, it's been a while. Crocodile. Yeah, I've missed you, but I've kept tabs on you. I've got my spies, you know.
Yeah, well, I always looked at you as a stalker, so it all makes sense.
That's we were just talking about stalkers before. Yeah, don't go
You,
there.
you set me up, and I'm not
You
gonna go.
did.
Um, so my brother, what have you been up to? I want people to learn about the Mark Atwood that they don't always see, because I know you did an amazing film with Kieran that we're going to talk about. Your poetry is extraordinary, and you do all this base front things, but people don't know how hard you work behind the scenes for we the people. And I kind of once you dive into the type of things that you do that maybe we don't know about.
Well, it's funny because I don't feel like I work hard enough. I don't know about you, but I wake up and I think, am I doing enough? I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And I see there's a Guy Ferg here who's a poet, an Irish poet, and the amazing campaigner, and Philip Dwyer, and there's people on the streets in Ireland every single day. And I'm like, and I can't get to these things because I've got the kids or I've got, these other things going on. And I'm like, am I doing enough? And then then you get to the point where you realize, well, you got to do what you're good at. And for me, that has been, I'm good behind the scene. I'm good at organizing things. I'm good at getting things rolling.
Hmm.
I have a long history of starting businesses and running businesses and stuff like that. So a lot. This year, this not 2023 started with a difference for me because I went to see my mum in Birmingham, which is in the middle of England, in January, and it was her birthday. And I don't know if I told you this story, but I got um I got a message from God. I still can't believe I said that out loud. But it's true, but it's true. And I got a message, and the message was, you need to go make a video to tell people that you guys, us guys, people like us, are there for the ones that got duped. Because
Hmm.
there's millions and millions of people out there, single mums with kids that had to get jabbed to keep their jobs, stuff like that. The ones who took it to go on holiday, maybe not so much compassion for, but the were, read the label, guys. But the ones that got duped, and I got told to make that video, and I got told to put it on Twitter, and I got told it to get 1 million views. And yesterday, it got 1 million views.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I was discussing this today. I was like, how crazy is that? Because that's what I got told, and that's what I got told to do, and that's exactly what happened. And it's just another event in a long line of events that just keep proving to me again and again and again that God is real, and we have this direct line to God, and all we've got to do is kind of follow instructions and trust that voice, trust that intuition, and
Hmm.
just keep going forward despite all the slings and the arrows and all of this. Because, as you know, as we were talking about stalkers, um, and also trying to live your own life at the same time in the middle of all of that, and that's not always been the easiest thing to do because it's been quite a strange thing. But anyway, I did that, and for me, it was all about the healing. So I got a really good friend here in this town in Ireland, in Boyle, called Gary, who's a crypto trader, and he's awake. He's a sovereign human being, and he's a fine specimen of a man because he used to be a physical trainer. And we've been talking on and off for 3 or 4 years about healing centers, like loads of people have. I've met so many people said, "Yeah, we're going to open healing centers." Oh, that's fantastic, because there's going to be a massive, massive demand potentially, and I'm very much about what are we doing today? What have we got in front? I mean, one of the things that stuck with me from the Q post is you have more than you know. For me, that makes me look around and go, well, what resources have we got right now that we can do something with right now? Because I got frustrated. I did a video a couple of years ago saying, please don't let your belief that the RV is going to happen tomorrow, XRP is going to be worth $10,000, or that silver is going to go up to 100,000. Don't let your belief that that's going to happen tomorrow stop you doing anything today, because that whole kind of information cult, really, kind of a cult behavior from the people that I've seen saying, yeah, we're going to get $1 billion next week. It's coming next week. And then the next week it passes and nothing happens. And you're like, okay, what are we supposed to do today? What have we got now? So that's why I went around to Gary's and I said, we got to open a healing center right now. What have we got? Let's pull some resources. Let's open something. And we went with hyperbaric oxygen because it's 350 plus years old as a technology. It's oxygen, so it's not woo-woo. It's not lasers. It's not even the Tesla stuff that's 100 years old is still woo-woo to most people. So yeah, we opened this hyperbaric oxygen chamber healing center that went extremely well. And then, I'll cut a long story short, we've had over 500 people apply for franchises, and we've got, so suddenly I'm running a big business again. And it's like, oh, that's crackers, except it's kind of 5D business. So I've been, I don't know if I told you this story either, but I've always been taken by this idea that we are bridges, and we're bridging between dimensions. We're bridging between information. We're holding people's hand and helping them over the bridge. And for me, that ties in with Dolores Cannon's work, where she said that the people who are in their 50s right now, i.e. me, you're obviously in your 70s, so it's not you.
Yeah, at least.
He's 57, I think. Are the bridges, right? So this idea really stuck with me, and I thought oxygen is the bridge because it's open to everybody. It's donation based, and this is so funny because people go, "What do you mean it's donation based?" I'm like, "Well, if you can't afford to pay what we suggest as a donation, it's free." They're like, "What?" And they literally don't believe you. It's really bizarre. It took me. There's one guy I met, it took me about 2 months to convince him to come in and that we wouldn't charge him. And he did, and he looks great. And he's healing, which is fantastic. And now he's starting to contribute. But anyway, it's decentralized. It's a private members association. So it's not a business. It's not taxable, and you can't regulate it. And it's for the benefit of its members. So everybody that comes joins as a member. We don't charge them. And then they make a donation if they can afford it. And happy days. But I'm holding an event in 3 weeks. I've got to get all these documents together because all these people are coming over. They're ready to go. We've got 4, I think, who are ready to go right now. We're going to open up 1 in America, 1 in Canada, 2 in the UK. And we've got loads more behind them. So, that's taken up a huge amount of energy. But the real thing in terms of like front facing was to get my book out last year, which you did the forward to. Thank you very much. And hey, look at that. And that's been shipped all over the world to amazing people, and everybody that's had it seems to like it. So I'm very pleased about that, because this is also, when we talk about magic and manifesting and words and power, putting something into print and then sending it somewhere and putting it into these locations, it has a power. Even the logo of Live 5D Health, our healing center, is like the open flower of life, not the closed one, because the cabal kind of pirated that. So it's the open flower of life, and that's on the street on a sign, and that is changing the consciousness in and of itself, because symbols control everything. And then getting this film out of doing the Truth Tour with you. In fact, that picture was taken on the Truth Tour in Carolina. Do you remember? South Carolina? I can't remember. Before we went to Florida. And I'm a little bit giddy because I'm drinking this, which is Sentia GABA Spirit, which is a non-alcoholic drink that's supposed to get you drunk without a hangover.
Well, there's breaking news. You're drinking a non-alcoholic drink, so that's awesome.
Well, I'm trying, I'm trying it out, see if it works. And and then this year as well, there was also It wasn't really a secret meeting, but it was an amazing meeting of different people who've been involved in truth, protesting, whatever, in the last 3 years in the middle of England in a field. And that's where I met Mark Sexton, who's the ex-British policeman who's been trying to do the legal approach to taking the government to task in the UK consistently. Piles of evidence, case numbers, registered with the police, the whole thing, and getting nowhere and nowhere and nowhere, and just being ignored. And then he came up with this great idea called "We Do Not Consent," because he said quite clearly, and I agree with him, that without our consent, they can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting campaign to be part of, and I was heavily involved in that throughout the summer to try and help that in my own little way, in internet marketing kind of way, and also behind the scenes. I'm kind of a good team coach if I need to be. So that's been, and I've had the house. I've totally redone the house because it needed to be done, because I've been sat at the desk for 3 years and the whole house was going to shit without me realizing it. I just wasn't paying attention to anything, and I had to tidying the house. That's been very good, because that's also been part of the process that we're going through. And even today, I've been life review, deep stuff from the past, been process, which happened in 2020 really heavily when that's come back. And I think we are extremely, from a spiritual point of view, we've already done this, but we've still got to play it out. And I still think we've still got to stand up and be seen to stand up. And really, for me, it's about coming into alignment with universal law, and just being the best version of me. That's my personal journey, and I've not been the best version of me yet. We're all a work in progress. Nobody's perfect, but a lot of that has been short videos, because the hour-long interview stuff I kind of got really tired of doing, because it is hard work, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It is, but also I just thought, what else is there left to be said? There's this, we've covered, people like me and you have covered pretty much every subject. And we're still, all that content's still there to hold people's hand and help them over and through. So really, it's been a case of put your money where your mouth is, Mark, and then try and produce something. It sounds like I've done quite a lot, actually. When I think about a book and a film, and then there's healing senses and everything else, and then I'm still producing content, I'm quite pleased with that side of things. And I feel like I don't know, I look up every day and I say, am I doing a good job? And I got told, well, drink a bit less, maybe stop smoking. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting there.
Yeah,
Maybe
well, it's, you know what, it's important. It's so funny. I was in the shower today. Yes, I was thinking about you.
I was drinking. I couldn't get that joke in.
Right, exactly.
That's good.
So I had to beat you to the punch. So anyways, I was thinking it, and I go, okay, have I been self-reflecting enough? That's what my thought process was. And I got out and I was doing my thing, and I kept thinking, okay, have I been, well, is it ever enough can you self-reflect too much? The reality is, because if I'm self-reflecting, I don't beat myself up. I just say, okay, I could do this better, and maybe I can make an adjustment here. But you know what I've been doing lately with my self-reflecting, and it's really been helping. I've also been praising myself. So if I've done a good job here, I'm like, okay, I'm grateful that I'm doing good work there. Now where could I do better? And I think it's very powerful if people learn how to just honestly and authentically self-reflect. I think it's a very, very powerful mechanism to enhance and be, as you say, be the best you that you can be. And I'm not even close to where I think I should be.
I don't think any of us are, because we've been through hell, literally, all our lives. We've been demonically possessed most of our lives and didn't know it. We've been lied to. We've been eaten. We've been fed off. We've been worked to the bone to pay taxes to illegitimate, illegal gangsters that steal children. I mean, it's not the easiest transition, is it?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that. So, well, I believe there's accountability and responsibility, and I always try to designate the difference between the two. So, for example, if we pay our taxes and fund an illegitimate government, we're accountable for the things they spend their money on.
Yeah.
We are. We're not responsible for the things they spend their money on. And so on and so forth. That would be in a responsibility. For example, if I drive my car and it's raining and I hit the brakes and I hit somebody, right? I'm accountable for the fact that I hit the person, but I may not be responsible because there was oil on the road or something that was unforeseen, or my brakes went out. And there's a line there, and people get upset when I say you need to take accountability, and it's accountability is not responsibility. They're two different things. Accountability is an awareness of what's going on and know that you put yourself in that time and place. Therefore, you are accountable for what happened. Doesn't mean that you pulled the trigger. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. It does, but as soon as I realized what the British government was doing, and I refused to pay a tax bill,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to I moved country to Africa, and it was a really funny phone call. They rang me up and they said, "You've got to pay this tax." And I went, "No, I'm not paying it."
Oh,
And
really?
that's
Nice.
what I said to her on the phone. And she went, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And she said, "Where do you live?" I said, Marrakesh, Morocco." She said, "Well, what's your postcode?" I said, "There isn't one. I'm in the middle of a field." And she was so frustrated. She was going, "But without a postcode, we can't send anybody to get you." And I know. See ya. Oh, that was 10 years ago, nearly.
I was just talking to somebody that you think is a very wonderful person, as do I. And we were talking about how it's very important right now. We need to stand in our strength. We absolutely have to stand in our strength, and our strength is given by God. And it's not something the cabal can take away from you. It's something that we've willingly handed over decades, thousands of years, right? And we have to say, nope, we're done. Literally that easy. It's pretty much like Mark Sexton. I don't consent. And it's very blatant. It's easy. Take a deep breath, say, nope, not gonna happen. Nope. I don't want to, I'm not involved in that. I don't agree. No, you can't control me. And it's extraordinarily important. And get in somebody's face, you know. I I was kicked out of the Board of Supervisors meeting. I just had a very spirited conversation with Sheriff Mack that I was still respectful, but very, very, very hard in my explanation of things and my disagreement with the way things are going with him and his organization. That's going to come out soon, but it's not because I'm a big badass. It has zero to do with that. I'm just standing in my strength and understanding that these people work for us, period, end of story. We don't work for them, and we cannot bow down to them. But with that confidence, it's very easy to have these conversations with people.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of balls to do it as well. I mean, when I was doing the truth tour with you, a policeman came to my house. My son was here, and the policeman said, "Where's your dad?" And he said, "Well, he's in America." And he said, "Well, he's supposed to be in court today." And my son was like, "Well, he's not here." And the policeman said, "Well, he's going to go to prison if he doesn't." And so this shit my son up,
Of course.
absolutely shit him up, and I had no idea. I didn't even know there was a court case due. And I got back, and he said something very wise to me. He said, "Look, Dad, you've got 5 kids. Why are you willing to go to prison over a parking fine or a TV license?" And I said, he's got a point. And there's a brilliant woman whose name I can't remember. But I think she's based in Florida. She did a load of lectures 20 years ago in Sarasota, I think, in Florida. And I wish I could remember her name. And she was talking about all the esoteric side of what the time that was coming, as in now. And she talked about the fact that you in the spiritual war, you have to pick your battles.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I watch. I don't know if you know Martin Geddes. Do you know Martin?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I watched Martin's. Martin's been spending over a year really fighting and fighting and fighting TV licenses, tax, council tax, everything, and just going up against these officials of the government. And it takes a huge amount of energy. you know, and sometimes you've got to look at it and go, well, it's a 40 quid fine. If I just pay it now, it's done. But then I've kind of, you go through this whole thing, you know, then I've kind of acquiesced or I've taken part in their stupid bullshit, right?
Mhm.
But I've got loads of energy free to then go and put that energy into something else, because the energy it takes to fight that emotionally, spiritually, not necessarily physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, is absolutely really hard. And it actually really takes it, especially if you've got multiple fronts going on at the same time. So I advise people to do as much research as they can into standing in your power. And I do take a lot of pleasure getting the letters that come in the envelopes with the window on, because that is an internal memo. And if your name's in capitals, that's not you.
Mhm.
That's the straw man that they're assuming you're going to represent. And so therefore it's addressee not known, return to sender. And then you just pop it back in the post. And then you just keep doing that. And they keep sending you more letters, you just keep sending them. But you know, they got Richard Vobes in the UK had a terrible experience doing this, because they came to his house and demanded money with a bailiff while he was ill, and went to try and steal his car, and he got shook up. But I think he kind of had to go through that in a way, because he had to see how bloody horrible it is, because nobody wants these bailiffs coming to their house, because it's scary, it's horrible, especially if you're older and you're on your own and stuff like that. These guys are bullies and monsters and demons, you know, and so you've got to pick your battles. But it is important to stand in your power, and it does take some fortitude. You know, the first time I think I properly did it was with you don't have TV licenses in this. You know, they make us pay
I
licenses.
know. The first time you told me that, I was just blown away.
Which is nuts, right? Because so we pay to get brainwashed.
To get propagandized.
It's brilliant.
Exactly.
So you're going to brainwash me in my house, and you want me to pay you for it,
That's
or
right.
you'll send me to prison. Let me just think about that. That's a really good deal. That's a great deal. I mean,
it is as wacky as wacky can be.
well, that's the point. The more ridiculous and more in your face it is, the less people see it.
Right. Well, and they're in the boardroom laughing at us every time we pay that bill too. They're like, look at them. They're paying for us to MK Ultra them.
I know.
And they think it's so funny. They mock us. Oh, but we're winning. I mean, it's very, very clear that we're winning. So I'm glad you brought up the thing about the responsibility thing, because I've had this conversation with some people before, and they're complete anarchists. They don't pay anything, don't abide by any laws, so on and so forth. But then what happens is they lose everything. They lose their license. They can't do anything, and then they're just a pissed off person in their on their property, which is somebody else's property anyways, right? That can't do anything. They're just screaming at the top of the lungs. And I always try to tell people, I said, the only way to beat the system is you have to have 1 foot in the system. So do the minimum to get by while you're exposing them and showing people, like my nickname, Loophole Louie, showing people loopholes, how you can get through it. And then
That's not your nickname.
well, there's other ones for sure. There's so what was very important though is while we're exposing this, we have to stand in our power and push back as much as we possibly can. I mean, here's a great example. So I toured the whole United States almost 3 times.
Yeah.
And when you drive that much, and you know, there's real speed traps all over the place. Like literally, you're driving from one city at 65, you go into another city. That city is 1 block long, 1 mile long.
Yeah.
45, boom, and the second you go through, the cops are getting you. Bam, 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 bam. Like I have a ticket on my desk that I tried to pay them, but they wouldn't accept a check. And then they wouldn't accept a card. That I need to actually give them a money order. But the point is, imagine I got a lot of those tickets because I just drive pretty fast, I guess, or I don't pay attention to speed traps. Imagine if I paid none of them. I would have been able to travel around the United States with the Truth Tour 1 time, and I never would have been able to travel the other times. Do I like it? Do I agree with it? Do I understand the straw man? I totally do. But the challenge is, if I'm going to be effective, I got to play these games while I'm fighting these games at the same time. And I don't want to, but I can tell you, I know many people that are just flat out anarchists, and they're getting nothing done.
No, exactly.
Nothing done. And I feel like I'm making a difference and working hard and exposing things, right? So you kind of have to play the game a little bit in order to defeat the people in the game or the people that created the game.
Well, exactly, because the whole thing's designed to sort of tie you up in knots. And in fact, my treat to myself this Christmas was a new chessboard, and I've been playing chess a lot the last couple of weeks, and I was reminded of how important it is that sometimes you have to sack a pawn or a knight or something to win the game, and that's really what this is about. You know, every one of us is compromised in some way because we've been tied up in this whole bloody system. And the transition to greatness, to quote you, it involves having to look like you're compromised in or feel, understand that sometimes you have to do that because it's all for the greater. I don't like using the word the greater good because Biden nicks it, but you know, it's for it's for the big prize is bigger than whether you've paid a bill or not. I mean, there's a lot of amazing people in the UK who are doing stuff like on the Sovereign Pete, Peter Wilson, Stacey's World Rocks, and I've met all three of them and learned a lot from them. And Peter Wilson taught me something. He runs a website called claimyourstrawman.com, and he's helped us out a lot. He's taught me a lot in the last few years. And he as you just said earlier about 1 foot in here and 1 foot in here, he taught me a very, very powerful thing this year. He said, look, it's not about just putting yourself in the private. It's also about knowing when to put that private hat on and when to put the public hat on.
Exactly.
Because they're asking you to represent this straw man, fictional character, corporation, whatever, without you knowing it. But once you're aware of it, you should choose when you agree to represent it. And also, we should claim that as well, because it's ours. And a lot of people are like, oh, just burn it, throw it away, never agree to represent it. Well, actually, it is yours. And it can be used as a powerful vehicle in certain circumstances. So if you choose when to use it and when not to use it. So this is what we're doing with the Live 5D Health clinic. Is the reason why we chose to do it as a private members association is because that is the best vehicle available that allows us to do what we need to do. Which is in the private, but it's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to run it like a business because this is where this is my personal feeling, and not everybody agrees with this as usual, but there's a lot of great initiatives around the world, and a lot of these are fabulous ideas, but they look like they're being run by volunteers, firstly. And secondly, they're being funded a lot from public donations. Now, you've been in business a long time, so have I. If the money runs out when you're still in a financial system, the volunteers soon disappear. The whole thing falls over. It's unsustainable. We have to have money coming in. Otherwise, we can't run this stuff. It's just not possible. So, you know, we set it up as a PMA, but as a business. So I brought all my internet marketing to this business, and Gary's brought all his knowledge of dealing with customers and, you know, health and stuff like that. And we're running it as a business, but the door's not shut to anybody. That's why the donation thing is so important. And what it allows us to do is to create physical locations all over the world that are self-funded, because the oxygen allows them to be self-funded. They'll make money very quickly, very easily, because there's a big demand. There's 1 million people a month on Google alone worldwide looking for hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Whereas if you're bringing out a brand new therapy nobody's heard of, there's no demand for it. You'll get a spike in traffic because you go on a big show and talk about it, but then that's it. You know, it's not sustainable as a business. So, and there's a lot of that going on right now. There's a lot of new technologies being brought out as healing, but it's only being used by the very small percentage of people that understand what that is. Whereas something like oxygen, and here's the funny thing, I was talking about the bridge thing, the premises that we took for this place, somebody had to point out to me that it was on Bridge Street and there was a bridge out the window, like 2 months into opening, which is just hilarious. So
It's interesting you bring up the PMA. So my wife and I were blessed just recently for the second time to go to this health clinic. They run it under a PMA. It's the most ease of use, uninvasive, most powerful healing that I've ever seen in my life. and of course it runs through a PMA,
Great.
and it's extraordinarily important.
Hey, Robert Imbriali again. I just wanted to step in here for a moment and tell you about a great product, NutraSwish. If you're not familiar with it, NutraSwish is a glutathione product. It's hydrostat nanoparticle glutathione. And a bottle like this will last you an entire month. And what it does, it gives your body the much needed glutathione that your liver uses in order to detox and help you defeat oxidative stress. As you know, glutathione is the master antioxidant, and your liver requires it in order to do its job, which is filtering the blood and getting rid of all the toxicity. We're exposed to so much today from what we breathe and what we drink and what we eat. You got to get it out of your system, right? Otherwise, it just accumulates, and people end up later in life getting sick, and they wonder what's going on. Well, a lot of it is toxicity. If you're gaining a lot of weight, it's toxicity. If you're not having trouble sleep, oftentimes it's toxicity. So getting glutathione into your system is really, really important. And one of the challenges with a supplement glutathione, because you can get it in pill form, capsule form, the challenge with it is it gets So Neumi has come up with a product called NutraSwish, and really, really love this product. Take it twice a day. I do 2 to 3 times a day. A bottle like this, like I said, will last you about a month, and it gets the glutathione to go right into your system. You swish it around your mouth for about a minute, and most of it's absorbed under the tongue and goes right into the bloodstream, which is exactly where you want it to go. What you'll find that it'll help you sleep better. You'll have increased energy. Certainly will refresh you if you're really tired, and your muscles will recover quicker after physical exertion. So it's a really great product. We support it. We really love it. And we wouldn't promote something that we didn't ourselves use and love. And this is certainly one product that we both use and love. Actually, everyone on our team uses it and loves it as well. If you want to take a look at it, go over to lherms.neumi.com, lherms.neumi.com, or you could scan the QR code on your screen, and you'll be taken right to the page where you can order your Neumi. And what you see on the screen is a Neumi Herms. It's for women. Ladies, we have a great product for you as well called Neumi Herms, and certainly worth taking a look at. It'll help you with a lot of those, that time of the month stuff, those kind of strange things that happen to your body during that time. This product is really, really helpful for that. All right, without further ado, let me get back to the interview.
Let's rewind real quick, because your story actually is compelling before you even got into this so-called movement. Were you not going through some depression and some serious stuff before you really stepped into this realm?
100%, yeah. I mean, my marriage had ended, and I'd moved from Morocco to the west of Ireland, and I was suicidal basically. And it I don't discuss what goes on. Anybody that's ever had a marriage breakup knows that it's a multitude of things going wrong all at the same time, and something has to break. And yeah, I thought I'd lost everything, and I went through that. They call it the dark. What do they call it? The long dark night of the soul. But I got what I experienced going through that was incredible, because the way I see it was all these hands reached out to help me, and they came from the most extraordinary places. And I started hearing God speaking to me, and it was like it got louder and louder over time. I didn't really know what was going on. I was drinking, like most guys who split up with their wives. I was down the pub every night because I didn't know anybody, and I learned how depressed men really are, because I met all these drinkers, and I realized I don't want to be one of them. But what else was I to do at the time? I didn't know what else to do, and it was a really, really dark place. But I was being prepared for this. And I think I've been prepared for this. What I got literally shown everything, like, oh, you've been prepared your whole life. In fact, not only have you been prepared your whole life for this, but you chose to come and do it. And then this is why I wanted to come and meet people like you, because I think that's the same for you. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. And it's a strange thing to talk about, because nobody's above anybody else. And also all of my ego had to be battered, because I've always been confident, I suppose, on one hand, which, that's one of the weak points for me. And the AI knows this, and all the trolls, the AI trolls know this, and they go for those weak points in you, whether it's your ego, drinking, or the fact that you were suicidal or whatever, and they'll hit you with those things because they know how to get to you. But it's all of it's done is tempered everybody. So I think we're the ones of us that are still standing are stronger than we've ever been.
Yeah, and I think having to being willing to drop there's a couple different egos. I have debates with people about this, but the ego that we know it as that the guarded, offensive, better than ego. We have to drop that ego and be vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, it's amazing how fast we can grow and see things on how they are. But it very interesting. You brought up something I haven't thought about before. So you believe that the AIs, the artificial intelligence that are, say, on the chat forums and in Facebook and so on and so forth, they actually know our hot buttons and they try to press those. Is that what you're suggesting?
You know, I think they know everything about us, and you know, whether you think it's technological because they're listening in and putting a profile together about you over your entire life, or whether it's spiritual and they know a lot about you because you've been him. Because you know, really, we've had these battles multiple times. You know, we've been involved in these wars with the same characters for billions of years, in my opinion, or in my knowing. So they kind of know who we are and what we've been through, and those somebody said to me, it was a really powerful healer said to me once, the angels that reincarnate here or incarnate here find it the hardest to survive here because the frequency is so low here compared to what they used to, that they often become the alcoholics, the drug abusers, and are the most angelic beings who came here to fight. But fuck me, it's a tough place to come to because it's so dense and it's like swimming in soup, you know. And our whole lives are full of, well, my whole life is full of people that just never achieved their potential because it's just designed that way. You know, if you look at all the people that became rich and famous in our lives, most of them are on Jeffrey Epstein's fucking list. You know, and the rest of us sort of like just got beaten up or laughed at or opportunities taken away from it. You know, the fact that any of us are left is quite amazing. But yeah, I do think they know. I think they know exactly what buttons to press in your psyche. And when it comes to demonic attacks, which I am a veteran of, right? Literal physical demonic attacks. And you know, that time after the Truth Tour too, when you rang me and told me about what had happened in Anaheim, and I told you I'd seen those faces, thousands and thousands of faces trying to get at me, screaming at me. Like every time I closed my eyes, I could see them, but they were like behind a glass wall and they couldn't get to me. And you know, they get very frustrated when we keep getting back up.
Yeah.
They don't like it very much when we just ignore them and carry on.
Ignoring them. I'm glad you said that because that's a huge weapon that we have that people do not realize.
Well, it's very, very powerful to just cut that off. And, you know, all last year, the message I kept getting was boundaries, because I've never had boundaries.
I noticed.
I know I've never had boundaries. I'm terrible at it. I will always be the last one to go to bed, chasing the girls, drinking all the booze, being everybody's friend, and then wondering why I get hurt or I piss people off. And I'm like, the big lesson, Mark, have some fucking boundaries. And I'm like, it's taken me such a long time to start to do this. I mean, I'm only really starting to do it in the last few months, but the boundaries are really, really powerful and important. But it's important for people watching this to know as well that if you have a bright light and you're doing something good in the world, they don't want that to happen. They will find any nook and cranny to get to you, right? And that may be through your mother, through your brother, through your child. They know exactly how to do it. All they've got to do is whisper in their ear and then create some doubt somewhere that then manifests as a fight or something else that throws you off course. Anything it's all about throwing you off course, but it's all ultimately it's like somebody blowing at you while you're running, you know, or going boo, just to sort of trip you up. You just got to keep getting up and keep running because they can't actually stop you.
Yeah, and I agree. And this is why it's so important to stand in your power and realize it. whether they're demonic attacks or something else, often I feel something and it's hitting me. You literally, so you can go from that physical realm into the ethereal realm at the same time. We can live in both places at the same time. And
We do.
I feel it hitting me and I just reject it. I go, no, God, let's get rid of this. I'm not having it. Just like that. And it goes. It's amazing. And a few years ago, if somebody would have said I'm having spiritual attacks or my family or virtually everybody that was associated with me on the truth tour was and I was warned too, which is interesting. Somebody called me and they said, you're going to have a bunch of spiritual attacks and they're not going to attack you and your wife because your bond's so strong. They're going to attack everybody around you.
Yep.
And within 2 months, it seemed like everybody had a serious family issue.
Yep.
And that was in essence to stop what we were doing within the truth tour, which is, I believe, pretty exceptional and powerful. But I've learned, and I just hope everybody can believe this. If you believe that either you have the power, or you have a spiritual connection to God, and God has the power, just reject that stuff right when it comes in. Just say, nope, go away. I'm not going to deal with it. I take it to a whole nother level with remote influencing and stuff, but I don't generally talk about that publicly because that's a more of a private thing. And I try to, I'm working within what you would call the 3D realm right now, trying to get people to understand that they need to stand in their power. So I don't go too much into what you would also call the 5D conversation, because right now the work is transitioning
Yeah.
from one point to another. That's where we're trying to get right now.
Absolutely. And that again, back to the healing centers. It's now 6 months and we're healing people now, right? We're not waiting. We're healing people. And I know there's millions of other people doing this across the world, but we band together and use. I mean, I spent 20 years going, what am I doing in I don't even like marketing. I became one of the world's leading internet marketers. How? I didn't mean to. It just happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up writing books on it and making courses. And I was like, why is this for? It all makes sense because now I can use that as a weapon. Because if we create homogeneity, but have a decentralized business system with
Mm-hmm.
self-funded nodes which creates physical places people can go to trade in the private, to heal, to discuss, to buy things, to learn, because the things that we've all learned in the last 3 years are mind-blowing. I mean, I'm writing a book on spiritual protection with Abby Wynn, coming out next year as well, called Weapons of Mass Protection, because again, I got given all these gifts over the years from people that just came out of nowhere and taught me stuff about protection and how to get, Satan get behind me, and protection techniques and stuff that I didn't really understand, to be honest, 10, 12 years ago. But then they've really come into fore in the last 3 years. And yes, you can literally tell them to go away. You can, but you have to mean it. It has to come from your soul.
You have to
And
believe it too.
no, you have to totally believe it, because
Yep.
they know if you believe it.
Yep.
And when you have that that energy, that which is God energy, because we're fractals of God, there's nothing they can do. Absolutely nothing. And that's why I've called this spiritual quarantine, because it's kind of like, and it's not the time of gurus anymore. That time has gone. It's
Yeah.
all about you and your individual claiming your sovereignty and your power. And in the 3D, as you say, it's standing in your power, choosing when to pick your battles. I know lots of people like you as well who've just gone, I'm not doing anything, and then they just run out of money and end up in a field and and think growing carrots is the way out of this, and it isn't.
And how are they really making a difference? You know what I mean? A great example. Let's go into it. You and I, we're not going to name any names, but we both have an issue with a lot of so-called podcasters because they by the way, I have no issue with any of them making money. That's if people are offering them money for some service or whatever they do, I don't have an issue with that. I do have an issue if they lie and manipulate to get to
Yeah.
the point where they're making money, or they exaggerate, which there's a ton of them do. But ultimately, And my wife asks me this all the time, and she sees these so-called influencers, and she goes, what are they really doing? What are they doing for the people? And that's a great question, because when does it come the time where we step off behind our desk and we actually act
Yeah.
to make a difference, and don't just rely on that screen, but lead by example? And I'm trying to motivate as many so-called influencers to step out from behind your desk and do something, you know. Go meet people in person, have conversations in person, stand up to your own government, lead by example, go to board of supervisor meetings, or school board meetings, or like you were doing the work with Mark Sexton's in the background, you know. Do something that shows that we don't comply. And I believe there's going to be a transition here where people are going to go, okay, they serve their purpose, but now are they being courageous and in action and taking it to the cabal? And I really believe that's the next step, is you're going to see more people in the face of the cabal, and we need to.
Well, it's a big old question. I mean, you and me have talked to lots of different people over the last 3 years, for thousands and hundreds of them. I mean, face to face, other people out there, you know. And I nearly quit doing this 2 or 3 times. I was like, what am I doing this for? What's the point of it? Because I never wanted. I mean, the grief that comes with doing this is ridiculous. It's crazy, but we're compelled to do it. I think I am speaking for myself. I'm compelled to do it. I have the necessary skills and information and life experience in this life to be useful in some way, and so that's why I continue to do it. And all the people that I met in America, and all the people I met in the, you know, on face to face, all the email, all the comments, people have genuinely appreciated the fact that I've helped them out in the last 3 years, and that's enough. You know, if my kids would know that at some point, and
Yep.
I'd be made up. And you said that to me in Anaheim. Do you remember, by the wall?
Now,
When I was
I have so many inspirational moments, I can't remember all of them.
no, but I was the audience had me in tears, and I was by the wall, and you just turned to me and said, "You need to know that your kids are going to be proud of you one day and that made me cry even more, you bastard." But it was, you know, I've asked this question a lot, you know, are we useful? The answer I keep getting is very simple. Once we understand that we are the only things in existence, therefore everything that's happening in front of us is there for us, our soul's development. So every character in this film, this movie that you're creating, has a part to play. And one of your parts and one of my parts is to say, well, let's get up and show that we're doing something, because that's actually part of it. And what's going on in terms of consciousness is that the world is shifting in front of our eyes. So people are kind of expecting this big flash bang wallop and the whole new world in front of us, but it's actually, and there may be a big event that something like that happens. But what I'm seeing is this gradual transition of weird stuff. Like, I can hear things. My hearing is not. I thought my hearing was getting worse, but I can hear things miles away. Last night I was like, oh, that's somebody coming to the door, and they were like, what? And then literally a minute later, somebody knocked at the door, and I was like, like a dog? Like, how did I hear that? And it's subtle stuff like this, and the psychic stuff. I don't know about you, but the psychic stuff's gone off the charts for me.
Yep.
Absolutely, to the point of hilarity. And the manifesting is literally happening like that without, and I'm like, oh my God, that was so quick. How did that happen? I wasn't even consciously thinking of it, but it was definitely going on in the back of my mind, and these things just occur. So it's all part of it, because I think, you know, no disrespect at all to anybody who actually sits there going, well, the med bed's going to be here tomorrow, so we're all going to be fine. They're playing a part. I'm like, well, I haven't seen them yet, So what have we got? Okay, we've got hyperbaric oxygen, we've got red light therapy, we've got this quantum stuff. Let's get all that in a room and see if we can start helping people now. And I've spent all this time learning about the power of structured water. Let's get that in there with the salt and start getting that and all these cheap, simple things. And then it has this. I've always seen the petri dish. You know, the petri dish in biology, full of bacteria. You introduce a new bacteria, which is like a new idea, and then and then suddenly the whole thing changes.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of feeling, and I think agents for change are. It is important to do what we're doing because we reach so many people, and just one person going, actually, I'm going to do that. He's right. I'm going to do that. Oh, he's right. This is why it's been so important to have these platforms and do this stuff. And has the truth movement been infiltrated? Of course it has. Of course it has. Or probably 20, 30 years ago, they knew this time was coming.
Yep.
Lots of the characters that you see have written books and made films and had massive podcasts that are here, you know, still here. Maybe they were infiltrators planted way back because they had to have a backstory to be credible at this time. So what? I don't care. Are some of the new ones like us? Are we infiltrated? Well, I'm not. I look in the mirror every day, but you know, there are people out there that think I'm a shill and think I'm an agent or I'm in coots with people, and you know, and I'm a millionaire off the back of all this. All the crazy stuff they just throw at you. You just go, fuck, I don't care. We just have to keep plowing that path, and time will tell.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And it's okay if there are a lot of shills and controlled opposition out there. And I just like to tell people, use them
Yeah,
because 80% of the information is true anyways, right?
yeah,
So use that. And then when you have concrete evidence, uh, expose them if you choose, but use their information because there's some people out there that now other people would consider them they're way off the wagon. They don't trust them at all, but they really helped usher us into where we are now. I can think of a
absolutely.
couple of people that I've watched and I got a lot of good information out of, and I wouldn't spend 5 seconds listening to them today, but they ushered us through this process. So you can get something good out of most of the people that are out there. The key is, again, Mark, and you know this, we must stand in our power and we must use discernment. I was just talking to somebody and I was at the Turning Point event, right? And I think a lot of the people on stage were controlled oppositions and they had agenda and stuff like that. But you know what the beautiful thing is? Now when I'm listening to these speeches, I'm like, there it is. Wait for it, wait for it. There it is. Okay.
Mm.
And then you just throw it away and you go, okay. And then if anybody asks you about it, you go, well, it's all good, but I would be wary of this conversation. So we're in interesting times.
Yeah, very, and it doesn't matter whether people like you or not or whatever. I mean, everybody. For me, it's all frequency matching. So you find, you know, birds of a feather flock together. The teacher arrives when the student is ready. All of that kind of stuff. It's all true, and you know, you just go with what works for you and focus on you really, and don't get involved in the drama. I mean, the drama's just there to distract you. It's just another distraction. It's all about whether you can focus on the job, and the job is your soul's development. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, that's beautifully. So before we part ways, why don't you tell us a little about your beautiful film, Where You Atwood?
This is good stuff, by the way.
That
I,
that's your non-alcohol kind of like alcohol drink.
yeah, this is because it's been produced from botanicals that go to. That I don't fully understand it. The GABA is the thing that where you get the buzz from alcohol, and this does the same thing but with no alcohol. So you got no hangover, no fights.
That's interesting. Well, you know, I don't drink. Maybe I'll look into it.
Well, no, it's yeah, I got it from the UK. It's Censure, it's called. I am not endorsing, or this is the first time I've tried it. I don't know these guys. I am just somebody gave it to me as a gift yesterday. I've got to try it out. Well, yeah, Where You Outward. I mean, that was the title that Kieran gave the film because Kieran's Kieran. I've been working with him for 4 or 5 years. He's a talented young filmmaker from around here, and he helped me with the poetry videos. And then just to the audience, when Lewis asked me to do the Truth Tour, I was like, I've got to do the whole tour. And then I said to Kieran, do you want to come and film this tour? And I just knew it had to be recorded just in case we were right. I mean, really, I just thought if we're right, I'm pretty sure we are. I think this needs to be recorded, not just the speeches on the stage, but the behind the scenes. And let's see if we can make a movie about it, because it could end up being an important historical record. And what I wanted to capture was the humanity behind all of this, not just the person, not just us on stage presenting our ideas about the world, but behind the scenes. And then this idiot from England going with a load of Americans around America for a month is also quite funny. And it was funny. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did.
You know, when I got there, you knew the ammunition. I was like, fucking hell, am I going to make it back home? I mean, it's that kind of stuff. And then, you know, I'm not getting in that RV, and then next minute I'm driving the RV. I mean, it's just, then the RV kept breaking down. I mean, it was just fucking funny. And I think we did a good job. I think Kieran, I mean, it was 80 hours of footage, and we got it down to an hour and 40. You watched it with me about a month ago, I think. And I had the screening. I sent you a clip from the screening in Birmingham last Friday. And I was shitting myself because it's like, it's called Where You Atwood, and it's all about me. And I'm like, oh, it's fucking, it's like, I'm very uncomfortable with that. But at the same time, it is a good story. And it's not an ego trip. And it's really just a case of recording this thing and hopefully entertaining people, because, and actually that's what you should do. If you're watching, instead of all the crap the Cabal, whatever, is putting on Netflix and stuff over Christmas, you should watch this film. And it actually cost a lot of money, but it took us a year and we put it together. And I'm glad we did it, because I watched the reaction of the crowd, and they were crying and laughing and hugging me at the end. And I was like, oh, it's okay. They get it. And I was surprised at how many people said stuff like, we were there it was like we were there with you. And we related to all of that, because that's how we felt, especially when they saw the amazing people that turned up to the Truth Tour when we met them, and like that wonderful moment with Kathy O'Brien and our relationship, and you know, and then we put a bit of the drama in. There was a bit of drama, and it was good to have that in, because it was real, and it was stressful, and it was difficult, and people did fall out a little bit here and there. Didn't put all of that in, but because we don't want anybody to come out of this negatively in any way. It's a positive film, telling a positive story about real people trying to make a difference and having fun on the way, because and in a way, really, that's a reminder for everybody that we've got to try and enjoy this. I know it's crackers. I know it's difficult. I know it's emotionally draining and everything else, but we've got to keep trying to enjoy ourselves and not being too hard on ourselves and not being dogmatic about anything. Whatever it takes for you to get through this, do it. But laughter's the best way out. And I think it's a pretty, I know it's funny. I know it's a funny film, but I didn't realize it was also emotional. But when I saw that live audience last week, I was like, okay, I'm going to release this now, because I'm happy. It's not perfect. There's other things I could do with it, but it's good enough. It works as a film, and I'm going to put it out about the 26th of December.
Beautiful. Well, I enjoyed it. I think a lot of people will enjoy it, and it was really nice to see the interaction between everybody, and for me personally, to revisit some of the people who were on the tour. So, and you know, you had the courage to come out, and I know I was not easy on you or anybody else.
Yeah, but we got all that on film though. It was great. It was like, what's he doing? What is Lewis Herms doing? The fucker's just got what? Catch up with him. I mean, it's just great to see it, because I'm back in that car. I'm back in that RV when I watch it, and I'm like, and I'll never forget it. I mean, even if it's just, it's like, even if it's just an extremely expensive holiday movie video, then I'm very happy that I made it, you know. But it's like I said about this book. If I'm right, this is a collector's item. If I'm wrong, it's very expensive toilet paper. And it's the same with this film.
Yeah. Well, Mark, appreciate you being here. Any last words, like an Undertaker?
Don't say last words. What do you mean? I'm not finished yet. Just, I was actually going to quote Doctor Who there. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
That's Doctor Who or Doctor what?
Now that's Doctor Who from 1966, before it went woke.
That's right. They all go woke.
Yeah.
All right, brother. It's wonderful seeing you.
Happy Christmas to you and all your family, and Happy New Year. And we're gonna rock it 2020. Hopefully, I'll see you next year. And all you guys watching, I hope you're having an amazing time. And whatever's going down, just make sure you laugh today and every day,
No.
at least once.
Yep. I'm with you, brother. And then all links below, guys. Anything that we discussed may or may not be in the description below. All right. Take care.